I'm recording this video on the 17th of October. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move down to my Fractals folder. Now, what are fractals? Fractals are simply the charts which are built upon one another. Everything starts with a shorter time frame and moves up to the longer time frame. So when a stock begins to turn, it's going to show up first in the daily chart, and then the weekly chart, and then the monthly chart. Also, for those of you who have attended my webinar, I use a 78-minute chart in Thinkorswim for the shorter time frame, which builds, and then the daily chart builds, and then the weekly chart builds, and then the monthly chart builds. So what I'm looking for is essentially a confirmation in all three charts. Now, I haven't moved into fractals yet. Let me go into that chart. You can see I have a bullish folder and a bearish folder, and it says fan up. One of the few requirements for this view is that the fan be up. Now, I have charts that I use specifically for this, fractal layout charts, and if I want to see what the relationship is to the moving averages and so on, I'll go up and use chart number 1 up here under my IR and expansion contraction charts. And you can see here that in this tower that the stocks, or the fan, is in place and the stock is moving up. But let's just move over here to my warehouse view, and I am sorted on raw combo, and sometimes you'll see charts like this, which generally are buyouts. You have to go check the news. I want to go back to my daily chart, because when a stock is moving up like this, it looks very suspicious, doesn't it? Here's another one. You're going to get a lot of this looking at the daily charts. Here's another one. It just shot up and stopped. So when I'm using or prospecting with these charts and this filter, I usually go in and use the intraday so I can really see what's moving now. So here is EuroNav NV. This is an ADR, it looks like, but you can see that the daily chart, this is back in the middle or the first third of August. The daily chart started turning up, and then it built on the weekly chart, and then if you go over here, it starts building the monthly chart. So this is the fractal approach, where you'll start seeing the turn in the daily chart, and then if it continues, it will show up in the weekly chart, and then ultimately the monthly chart too. And like I said, for the short-term entries, I also use a 78-minute chart in Thinkorswim, and I usually have that window down in here. You have to, of course, type the symbol in separately, but it works just fine. Now remember that one of the filter requirements is that the fan be up. So when this starts turning down here, the fan is not more than likely going to be up. But you can see back here in July of this year that it corrected, and then it started moving up again. That would be comparable to this, or that would be building in this area on the weekly, and it would be in this area on the monthly. The way I have this filter set up right now, I'm really looking for strong stocks that are looking like they want to go higher. Now, just remember, if you use this layout for any of the other scans, and I suggest that you do use this layout so you can get a perspective on the monthly, weekly, and the daily charts, that the fractal approach works for any of these screens. You just want to see some movement in the daily chart, and then you want to see it building in the weekly chart and in the monthly chart too. That's how you get into these stocks early. Now you're going to be working with a lot of oversold stocks on a lot of these screens, but if it starts to build and it's moving into all three charts, that is a very good sign that it may be an oversold stock may be turning around. Most of these stocks, if not all of these stocks, are already strong because the fan requirement is in my filter. Let's look at Arrowhead Pharma here. I'll use this as an example. I'm going to go back up here and let's look at this. You can see that I'll make this larger so we can get a good look at it. That the fan was in place up here, and then the 18 dipped below the 50, but then it came out of it right here, right where that effort to rise was signaled. Also, the VPOC was positive, and the 3 went above the 6. So this stock would have shown up again in this screen right at this point when the fan was reestablished, and it was trading for about 32, but you can see that the fan was in place all the way back here. So it would have been appearing in all of these all the way up here until this point right here where it turned down and then it reestablished itself. Now looking at this chart, I can tell that using a scan from the VPOC scan, volume point of control, it would have been would have appeared right here. And let's see, is that would have been the day after that, more than likely, or this day right here. So it would have appeared early when the 3 was crossing the 6. So using either one of those scans that I've talked about previously, this stock would have appeared, and then it would have reappeared on this fractal scan right at this point. So there are early entries. What I'm saying is, if you use other signals rather than just looking at this fractal screen, you should have all of these charts on your screen, because when it started to move up again in July, and let me go back to just the fractal layout. First of all, here is a VPA flag that's appearing. Okay, I want to look at the fractals in here. I'm going to use the last 5 days, which represent this candle. So these 5 bars or candles are building this candle over here. If we go back 5 more days, that represents the prior week. And if I go back 5 more days, that represents this week. So you can see that, of course, the daily is moving first and building the weekly. And then if I, let's see, what this is, 1, 2, 3 weeks, those are all built into this monthly candle here, plus the lower wick of this one. So this is what I mean by the fractal nature of charts. They just build on one another. But it always starts with a lower time frame. So on the 78-minute chart, which I'm not going to bring up here, I'll do that sometime in a webinar and so on, but it will be building these candles, or this candle right here, and that is the short-term fractal. And you can even go down to 1-minute charts. Everything applies. You first see the movement in the shortest time frame, and then it starts building on these other charts. Now, the way I designed this screen is I'm really only interested using this screen in particular in stocks that are in long-term uptrends, or the flag, or at least the fan is in place on the daily chart, and I like to find stocks that have pulled back a little bit and are looking to go again. So I'll just flip through these charts intraday to look for potential trades on stocks whose monthly chart is going up, whose weekly chart is going up, and whose daily chart is going up. Now here's Campbell Soup Company. Let's see when they report. They don't report until November, but you can see that it's breaking out past resistance, and the monthly chart, the weekly chart, and the daily chart are all confirming one another. Okay, let me move on. This is the same thing, except I have a bullish VPA flag requirement on these stocks. So I went from, let's see, 443 all the way down to 75, and Duke Energy, as of yesterday, had to have a bullish VPA flag, and you can see that it did, and we're getting some confirmation here. Strong daily chart, strong weekly chart, strong monthly chart. Here's the low volume test on this particular stock, Equity Residential. Here's the confirmation today, and strong monthly, strong weekly, and strong daily. Now let's go to the other version of this, which would be the intraday version. And here's Natera, which I believe I mentioned in another video. Now it had a VPA flag. It is the transfer of ownership. You can see that as the announcement was made for the secondary, the buyers were coming in, and they took it back up to over 50% of its daily range. And now it looks like it's going to be fine today. That the news has been absorbed, volume has been extremely heavy, and it is a strong chart on the monthly, the weekly, and the daily, and it looks like all that news about the secondary offering has been absorbed. Now I'm going to scroll over here a little bit so you can see those were two transfer of ownerships. I need to go back and resort on my raw combo. And here's an effort to rise on Aaron's. Let's take a look at Aaron's. Strong monthly, strong daily, strong weekly, and strong daily. And you can see that this stock is moving up again today after an effort to rise. There was a huge effort to rise candle with extremely heavy volume. It didn't pause very long. Yes, we're getting a couple of warning signals that this stock could be overbought, but that was negated yesterday with this effort to rise, and Aaron's keeps going up. Let's do one more. Medicines Company. Going to start over here. Look at the monthly is strong. Reverse itself's been going up for several months. Weekly is strong. Good VPA flagged signals here, and the daily chart has been strong. Here's that effort to rise. Low volume test, confirmation. Low volume test, another confirmation to go up, and it's been moving. So even though a lot of these stocks have gained a considerable amount anyway, if they're strong in multiple time frames, there's a good chance they're going to keep going up if the market is strong. Now, I've done fractals on the bearish side too. If you're interested in working from the bear side, Weakness generally begets weakness. Once again, you're going to find stocks that are just sitting down there using the end of day fractal. Let's go to the intraday. Just the opposite of the bullish side. I'm sure most of you will be working from the bullish side, so I'm not going to spend any time on this. These are bearish flags. And here's New Age Beverages. Boy, this was a hot stock once, wasn't it? Well, I guess it got up to the $10 range on the monthly, but look where it's fallen to now. Remember, the requirements here are for the flag to be down on the daily chart. And there are opportunities on the short side if you want to play the short side. But I would primarily stick to the long side of the fractals. And once again, I look over here first at the monthly and then the weekly and then the daily. And you can see how the shorter time frames build on the longer time frames. Let's just look here at the last 5 days, which would be the last 5 days here. It looked really strong in the short term, and then the last 2 days it's fallen off, and what that has done is produced a candle like this. You can see the strength and the where the upper wick was, but as of now, including today's data, it would be a shooting star at the top, but it's just showing that supply has come in to this stock after a short-term move up. It takes some practice to look at these charts and determine, but remember that 5 daily charts equals 1 week, and then 5 weekly charts equals 1 month, and then if you use the 78-minute chart in Thinkorswim, that represents approximately a daily bar. I wasn't going to do it, but since I've talked about it so much, let's go back here. Let's do a bullish fractal intraday. How about DHT? You can see the monthly chart has been building. The daily charts have been doing very well. It's gone in, of course, to the weekly, and here is a monthly. I'm going to, I have this hidden in the background somewhere, and I'm going to just type in DHT. This is my 78-minute chart, and the way I use this, if I'm looking for short-term entries, I'm using the 3, 6, and 18 exponential moving averages, and I like to see all 3 of them cross over. And if I'm real concerned about losing short-term profits, I would get out of a position when all 3 moving averages cross. And you can see it didn't happen here. This would be a buy point down here on the 78-minute chart. Remember, 5 of these days, and this is a pre-market in the gray area. 5 of these bars represent 1 day. So here's an entry. That would not be an entry because you're already in, but then this would be an exit right here because all 3 moving averages crossed, and now it's a re-entry point. So a short-term dip got up to around 789 and fell all the way to 709. So some short-term profit taking, but you can see the demand started building here, and here is a buy point. Now let's put this down here. You can see that that happened right here where this is going down. This is where it occurred here, and now we have a couple days later. It's just been building across here's a sell-off. It's been building across here, and then today the moving averages, the two moving averages, the green and the yellow, cross the red. So this would be another buy point for this stock when using this 78-minute chart. The odds are that this will go up, because if the longer term charts are strong, that has a very positive influence on the shorter term charts. The long-term charts are always the dominant charts when using fractal charts. Just think about it. If a stock has been strong and it pulls back and it's showing some support, that means that traders, investors who are not in a stock are ideal candidates. And Charles Kirkpatrick, when he did that study years ago, the primary driver of stocks price going up is stocks that are already strong. And logically, when you think about it, people want to get into strong stocks, and they consider any pullback a buying opportunity. So if you have all these charts in front of you, you get an entirely different perspective than if you're just looking at a daily chart. This is going to do it for the fractals. Just wanted to introduce you to this screen, and if you're looking for stocks that are strong and are pulling back, one very good way to do this is to use the fractal stocks end of day, and use the bullish VPA flags and start looking for stocks that way. Let's look at one more chart. VIPs, this one's been coming up recently. It was a good stock back here, and then it fell out of favor. But notice in the monthly how there are more white bars than black bars, which means that there is some accumulation here. No VPA flags yet because there's not enough data. You can see that as it sold off here, buyers came in on this during this week here, and really caught the falling knife and are driving it higher. And these are the dominant charts now. Here's a higher low than here. This would be a higher low than here, and this obviously is a higher low than here. And now it's looking like it wants to break out on the daily chart. Of course, there are no guarantees on any of this, but what you're looking for is you're looking to put the probabilities in your favor.